All right, let me explain something to you real quick. It's August 2024 at the time that I'm shooting this video. You only have about 4 weeks, if that. And there's a huge assumption that your fiscal for your organization starts January of 2025. The budgets for AI are going in, are talked about, are being line item now for your organization in 2025. You already know that AI is a top-down initiative. Your CEO, your CTO has looked because that's their job. Their job is to look 5 years, 10 years ahead, understand what's coming, what strategies need to be in place, and come up with roadmaps and guidelines and business objectives now in order to hit those targets or prepare for what's coming. They see AI coming down. So what they're doing, and so ChatGPT hit the world by storm January of 2023, probably like earlier than that for those who were actually tracking it. But January, that's when it popped. That's when the media got hold to it. Everyone started using it, was super amazed about it, ... So 2023, it was all exploratory. And it was really testing the waters. Like, is this thing real? Is it a fad? But everyone was talking about it. Everyone was doing great things. Products, vendors, suppliers, all jumped on board, infused AI into their respective product. Okay, so that was 2023. 2024, a lot of that started to spill over. But organizations start realizing that this was real. CEOs start realizing that this was real, and then start talking to their people. Get AI in here. Figure out how we can use AI. We got to be on the cutting edge. Like AI. This is now it's starting to hit home. It's starting hitting your organization. Your C-suite is all over this. Come 2025. Now, here's the problem. In 2024, the CEOs and all the other stuff, they wanted to do it. They told their direct reports, figure it out. They told their managers or directors, figure it out. And then, they went to seminars, education, YouTube, whatever they went to learn more about it. The problem is when they came back, they wanted to sample it because it all starts with a POC. You got to sample this thing. You have to figure out how it works in the organization. It's too new to make a full commitment. In 2024, there was zero budget because no one knew it was real enough. Because you have to understand, the year we in now, the budgets were determined yesteryear, right? So there was no money in 2024 to start implementing it. So it was more exploratory. And if they did implement something, they were pulling money for budgets that were already earmarked for other areas of the organization. And now they're starting to pull it into, do a sample of this, do a sample of that. Nothing significant. Here's the rub. In 2025, it's about to get real. As my grandma used to say. Now we have budgets. They know this thing is real. The CEO is all up in arms. The CTO is up in arms. The CFO is finding money for this. This is a budget item. What does that mean to you and me as a app maker in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem? We have to be ready. And that's why I'm doing this course. This is the AI course for Power Platform developers, how to create AI solutions on the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. And I'm giving it away absolutely free. That part may be cut out if someone's charging you for this class, right? But if you came directly from me, this class should be absolutely free. I'm not sure about the platform, how I'm going to pull it off yet, but that's the goal. Because that's going to be my contribution to the community to get you skilled up, to get you ready, because your organization is going to need it. Now, this is an opportunity, and I'm going to use this real quick. We're going to switch over to the whiteboard here in a second. This is an opportunity for you to leapfrog. What do I mean by that? This is the opportunity that if you were waiting when you can step up to the plate, rise up above, the cream rises to the top, that so to speak. I don't know all the acronyms and the sayings, right? But this is not step up and finally be recognized for the person, the skills, the creativity, the innovation that you bring to the table. The organizations that's going to win this game, one, they have to innovate exponentially faster than everyone else. Two, they have to have a team that can execute faster than anyone else. When I say anyone else, I mean competitors, competition, anyone else in their industry or their segment of the industry. Those are the ones who are going to execute first, or who are going to rise to the top. So they're going to be looking for talent, your talent. They're going to be looking for people like you. They're going to be looking for someone that has the skill set. You're going to get the unfair advantage. What do I mean by that? One, just because your organization is on the Microsoft 365 platform primes you to be in a very great position to execute. And I'm going to show you on the whiteboard what I mean by that. Secondly, because you're using the Power Platform, you can execute faster than any traditional developer. And when I say faster, I mean not just to get the app up and running, because I think you can execute that faster. And we're going to go through some apps in this course, and we're going to build them, and they're all going to be AI centric. But your apps are they're going to look great. You're going to have the same quality of a senior UI UX person using your app, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Your app's going to be able to execute enterprise grade. They're going to have monitoring. They're going to be run on the cloud infrastructure. You can throw 5 people at it, 500 people at it, 5,000 people at it, 50,000 people at it, and it will not even blink. Your apps are going to have the monitoring, the security, and they're going to fit within the security piece of your ecosystem, like the authorization, authentication, all that stuff is all baked in. That's just a natural thing of the Power Platform. So your apps are going to be enterprise grade, and you're going to be able to implement them in a fraction of a time of a full stack developer or a .NET developer or a Python developer. Let's talk about Python for a little bit. When we talk about AI, Python is like the language that always pops up. Most of that is because when you're looking on YouTube or you're looking on the internet or you're looking at OpenAI developer pages or whatever the case may be, and you're reading up on this, Python is either one, the sample code, the language that they use to show the sample code, or Python is usually used on some type of plugin that you need in order to get this to work. We don't need any of that. I was able to implement I'm probably on my 27th, 28th solution, 0 Python code. But when you need Python, guess who's your best friend? ChatGPT, right? So don't get caught up on the Python wave. You don't need it. You can get so much mileage out of your applications without Python, and I'm going to show you how to use that. All right, let's switch over to the whiteboard. Here at the whiteboard is a couple of things we need to level set. This is what your CTO, who's been charged with bring AI into the organization, get people trained up on AI. They're coming up with a roadmap similar to this. You're going to have this S-curve, right? And in this S-curve, let's say this is the beginning. This is the start. On this start, we're going to call this the AI intro. Then you're going to have the middle. This level of skill set for AI in the organization is going to be moderate. Then you're going to have the tip of the iceberg. This is what we're going to call AI the advanced. What does all of this mean exactly? And Microsoft actually have you set up to take advantage of all 3 levels and your journey along the way. Most of the people in the world are actually here. They're not even on the graph. They're out here spectating. Whether it's AI, I don't know what I don't know. Is this thing a real thing? Is it a fad? How can we use it? Like, they're not even jumping in. Then you have people who are actually here. Let me get rid of this red box. You have people at the very beginning of their AI journey. And what does this look like? These are the people who are using ChatGPT. They're going out and using third-party AIs. They're going out, creating pictures, creating video, creating headshots, or, using different apps on Facebook or Instagram that allow you to change your face and all. So they're consumers of AI. And they're doing a little bit of AI like, okay, tweak this email or tweak this message or update this resume or reformat this or whatever the case may be. But all of this work, 9 times out of 10, is using ChatGPT. And these people who are at the beginning using ChatGPT, they are actually super excited because they see firsthand what the AI can do. They're also are very cautious because they see firsthand of how the AI can flip up, how the AI can trip up and actually give you bad results or hallucinate or, just give you bad information there in general. And they're testing the boundaries of what it is and what it's not. They don't really have a full understanding of the whole gamut of AI, right? So they know that other AI models exist. They know that there is an AI model with Meta. There's an AI model with Google. There's an AI model with Tesla. There's an AI model with AWS. Like they know there's other alternatives with ChatGPT, and they're testing them out. These people are going to be the evangelists and the champions in the organization. And the reason for that is because they're light years ahead of where everyone else is, right? So again, this is everyone else. They're not even on the spectrum. They're spectating. They're hearing about it, but they never used it. They heard about ChatGPT, but they never cracked it open, right? Or they saw it once, or they tried it once, 2, 4, 6, 8 months ago, but they haven't been using it on a daily basis. Where these people are using it more frequently, at least minimum 5 to 6 times a week, right? So what we're going to happen, this is where we're going to be. This is where a lot of organizations are going to strive to be in 2025. They're going to go from the basic use and to get from here to here, from this intro, I'm going to say casual usage up to no usage of AI to casual usage of AI. And some of this casual usage of AI is not in the organization. Most of this casual usage of AI is on a personal level. Or if they're doing it for personal gain, meaning that they're responding to a client, but they're using ChatGPT to come up with the right wording in that email, and then they're tweaking it, and then they're sending it to the client. So it's to make them look good. They're not using it to share it with other employees or associates within the organization. This is all for self-gain, right? Or they're using it on the personal side, like they're probably tweaking up their resume, or they're trying to tweak it to do social posts, or whatever the case may be. But it's more of an individual piece. Your CTO, they love that this is happening, but it's not adding value. It's not moving the needle within the organization. In order to move the needle, they got to make this jump here. What does this jump look like? This is when, let's just say your organization has 500 people. We have 500 associates. At the very tip, let's say only 5 of them are using ChatGPT on a casual level. Very beginning, early stages of the spectrum. This move here, you want to get at least 20% of your organization using ChatGPT for business, collaborating with other employees, minimum 5 instances or occurrences per week. That's the leap. So you're going to go from 5 to 100. I was going to abbreviate this ASS, but let's not do that. 500. You need to go from 5 to 100 associates using this 5 times a week in a collaborative way, minimum. Right? These are the minimum numbers to hit this level. Organizations that do this in 2020, your CTO doesn't know how to get here. They just know that this is a great number to show progress. This is a great number to start this journey, but they have no idea how to get there. What framework? Like, now we're going to give you some examples. One, we're going to show you how to build this stuff. Like this class, you're going to be here. You're going to be almost like these people here at the very beginning of the spectrum. You're going to be the one, you're not going to use it for personal gain, but you're going to be the 1% of the 1% in the organization, right? Because you're going to be at a level that you're really just waiting for everyone to catch up. And if you're super aggressive, you're actually here evangelizing and coaching people to get from here to here. But a few of these, they're going to be using the apps that you're using, that you're making here. But your skill set, your understanding, and your big picture stuff is going to be here. Your CTO, if you get that recognition, if you get that exposure, they want to tap into you because you're going to be the catalyst to get everyone from these 5 people from here to here and add in the missing 95 into this piece. Again, the goal by the end of 2025 is to get 20% of the organization using AI. I didn't say ChatGPT. I said AI because there's another piece that we have to do to get to this leap. Using AI in a collaborative way within the organization, not just only for self-use and self-gain, but within the organization, moving the needle and having an impact on how you operate, how you service your clients, how you go after market, how do you market and advertise, ... Like these, that's the needle your CEO and CTO is trying to move with AI. They're not interested in the smartness of AI. They're not interested in the pretty pictures or how great the response is and how human-like it is. And when we get into audio AI, how it sounds like a human. They're not interested in any of that nuance. They all about moving the organization from here to here, right? And that's going to be a monumental jump, and they're going to need people like this to help move the needle. Let's talk about what this piece here is. I want to touch on moderate, and I want to touch on advanced. What is moderate? Moderate AI is when people in your organization let's just call these 100 associates, and you may not get there in 2025. This may be a 2026 or even a 2027 initiative. And this really just depends on how aggressive your organization is. Moderate AI is when you have a user, an associate, using on a daily basis an AI app built within their environment, for us, built on the Power Platform that's using AI, and this is their daily line of business. Whatever their daily duty is, whatever their daily responsibility is, they're using this, I want to call this Power AI. So it's AI on the Power Platform. They're using Power AI on the daily. And the more people that you have within this profile, the more significant your organization is operating using AI. And there's no doubt in my mind you should be executing exponentially faster than any other competitor within your space. Right? So what does this look like? This is let me just scroll up here. Okay, so that's what moderate is. And then I'm going to do a deep dive here because this is what this class is going to focus on. The class is going to focus on getting you skilled up to build AI applications so your business users can leverage it to get their stuff done faster in the more efficient way with the highest quality possible, right? What's advanced AI? We're not here yet. Advanced AI is probably going to be a 2026 2027 initiative. But you got people who's already playing in this space already. Most of them are product creators. Most of them are vendors, suppliers, people who create products that we probably use on the daily. This is the space that Microsoft is playing with already. This is the space Google is playing with already. Camtasia, Spotify, YouTube, like anyone that creates a product, this is where they're playing already. They have already trying to figure out how can we do AI automation. AI automation, you may have heard this term already, is autonomous. It's autonomous AI. Autonomous AI is where the AI is pretty much synonymous to an employee. They're just doing their thing, and they're doing it on an autonomous way, meaning with no interaction with a human, and they're just executing. Autonomous AI looks something like a AI call center. An AI call center is a AI bot that answer, and these are similar to the chat bots today, but they're going to go to a whole new level, and they have a level of smarts. And in order to do autonomous AI, you got to have AGI, artificial general intelligence, meaning that you're not training the AI. There's no prompt. You pretty much give it a goal or a milestone, and it executes on its own to get this done. There's a lot of rumors in the industry saying that ChatGPT 5.0 will be the first version of AGI. Everyone is reaching, all the AI engineers are trying to reach this level of AGI. And this is where the AI just do what it thinks is best and not necessarily what it's instructed to do. And it could be a very scary thought process when you think of it. But as of now, what they're shooting for are AI call centers. You can actually build this now as a level 4 application or even a level 3 application. So what I mean by levels. So if we had to number this S curve, let's just say this would be number 1. All right, let me put these up here. This board is getting real messy real quick, isn't it? So this is going to be level 1. This would be level 2. This would be level 3 where it says moderate. This would be level 4. And this would be the ultimate level 5, full AGI, right? So if we number these, all right, these are not evenly spaced, but imagine this. So let's just make this up. I'm going to do this with the highlighter. So this is level 1. Level 2 is where all the organizations want to be at the end of 2025. Level 3 is moderate. Level 4, and then level 5, right? And you're actually going to be 3.5. Actually, yeah, you're going to be 3.5. I was going to say 4, but let's not bite off more than we can chew. So 3.5, okay? All right, so what does this look like, and what does this class entail? And you probably want to get signed up right away, and I'm going to tell you why there's a little time pressure on this. Okay, so we're going to break this up into 5 main topics. I was going to say modules, but they're going to be topics because it may take several modules to pull this off. So the 5 that we're going to cover the Power Apps responsive design. Now, Power Apps finally has a set of modern controls that are very nice, actually. I think they use, under the hood, I think they use the Fluent UI framework, which is the same UI framework that Microsoft uses in modern SharePoint. So these controls and these components in Power Apps look very modern. They're super nice. If you have a really good pattern, you can drop these in, get something looking really professional, really nice, really quick as well, right? But with that comes some nuances. So I've been playing around with this. I'm going to show you all my tips and tricks on, how I set up a gallery, how I do a multi-page strategy, how do I use custom components in a multi-page strategy so you're not duplicating components all over the place. When you add a new screen, you have to go and set all of these properties on the different components on the page. really common navigation experiences, like a left nav and then like a main screen, and then each click on the nav take you to a different screen, how you wire that up in a repeatable way. Also, how do you do a two-layer navigation, meaning that you click on one link, you go into the main page, then within that page you got other experiences that you want to pull off or show, and how do you do that? Because some of these, what's happening in 2025, now that the Power Platform has been out, it's, went through its infant stage, went through its, growing pain stage, and then Microsoft just keeps iterate. Like every Microsoft Ignite conference, every Microsoft Build conference, they're adding something new to the Power Platform. They're getting super, super serious about this. And now in 2025, we're starting to build very complex applications with these tools. So you have to go in with a lot of strategies in your toolbox on how to pull these off. And with the Power Apps responsive design and Power Apps best practices, we're going to get there. The next one I want to focus on, this is what I'm calling the Power Automate microservices architectural design. And it's a mouthful. What exactly does that mean? This is what we're finding out from my experience with the Power Platform for the past 7 years. As we graduate and start to do some very complex operations, I don't want to keep using that word complex, but that's what it is. Like the more we get used to these tools, the more comfortable we get, the more requirements we try to take down, build with these tool sets. Now, with the Power Automate, it really handles three main concepts. Of course, workflow, like those are table stakes. Workflows, email notifications, all this other, that's table stakes. Like that's the stuff that we're going to do. Reminders on the schedule, like, document review, get a reminder when that document date is 30 days before the date, 15 days before the day before the date, and then it's passed through, then you got an escalation clause, Like that's all table stakes. That's the norm stuff that we normally do. What I'm finding is that there's other use cases that are a little bit more complex and sometimes are starting to stretch the boundaries of the Power Automate capabilities, but we do it anyway because we're used to it, right? Part of that is loading data or interacting with data that's on-prem, or interacting with a data source that's in Azure, Azure SQL, Azure Oracle, MongoDB, How do you deal with a NoSQL data source within Power Automate and Power Apps in the event you run into that scenario? How do you load up millions of records from an Oracle database into a SharePoint list? Or how do you use Power Automate to load up millions of records from the on-prem Oracle and then use that to load in a Azure Oracle? The Data Factory, and I want to say Data Factory, Databricks, because I'm just not familiar with that. But the DBAs have other tooling within Azure, but we as app makers, we're used to this, so this is what we do, right? So what are the tips and tricks in doing that? But more importantly, especially for this class, actually I don't think I'm going to talk about any of that stuff. For this class, how do you build this Power Automate microservices architecture design to interact with the AI model? And then the AI model I'm referring to is the Azure Open AI. But if you can build this, and I don't think we're going to cover this in this class, but once I show you how to interact, like how you structure this and build it with Azure Open AI, you're going to be able to expand this out to interact with any AI and encapsulate all the heavy lift of passing the token or the key to the client service ID to the AI, getting the response back, combing through that JSON response, and then sending it back to the controller or the calling Power Automate. So there's going to be layers that we build. On the surface, it may seem like it's overkill and it's just a lot of overhead. But at the end of the day, we're building this for enterprise. Again, as you saw in that S curve, we're not doing AI as an individual for self-gain. We need to switch our mindset and our thought process and strategy to do AI to where it could be collaborative, used by other users, and for you and I, be able to rebuild in the most efficient and effective way. That's where we need to get to, right? So that's going to be the microservice, the Power Automate microservices architecture design. Say that 20 times before you go to bed tonight. Finally, we're going to get to the Azure Open AI. What exactly is that? Azure, for those of you who don't know, Azure Open AI is the private, safe AI to use within the organization. Most companies would not appreciate and sometimes allow or even expose ChatGPT in the corporate environment. And the reason for that is because if you're not trained and understand the difference, and if you're not considering data security or data regulation or governance, and you start using company confidential information with ChatGPT, even though ChatGPT they promise not to use your information to grow their AI model, even though they need your information to grow your AI model. Remember the S curve where we had level 1 through level 5? To get to level 5, they need all the information they can get. That's why it's as smart as it is now, because they went out there and pointed their crawlers to the internet and systematically crawl through every piece of website, every blog on the internet and consume that information and train their model. And that's why it's as smart as it is today. That's why we are amazed on how much it knows, how much it comprehends, how much it just understands and get what we're trying to say with saying it with very few words. Like, it knows us. And it only able to do that because it trains on the data. So it actually hurts ChatGPT or OpenAI, the creators behind it. ChatGPT is actually the product name, though. So it actually hurts OpenAI. It hurts their feelings that they're unable to use your data to train their model. Now, by default, that setting is turned on. You have to explicitly turn it off. And again, it's a promise. It's a pinky promise. We're not going to use it to train, but you don't know. You don't know until it happens, right? So we're not taking that chance. Our organizations are risk adverse. We're not putting ourselves in a position to where we're doing everything on the promise. But better yet, we're going to do a contractual agreement and leverage what we already have in place with Microsoft, because, they're keeping our email secure. They're keeping all of our documents and conversations in Microsoft Teams secure. They're keeping all of our documents and information that we store in SharePoint secure, and ... So there's a whole security posture on the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, on the Azure tenant that we play in on our day-to-day. We already trust. We already have this relationship with Microsoft. And what Microsoft is bringing to the table is not, as of today, as of August of 2024, is not just ChatGPT, but they're bringing ChatGPT to the table. And because of their relationship with OpenAI, they actually took a copy of the model and pasted inside of your tenant, and every tenant gets their own version, their own copy of the model. And then every now and then they will update it from OpenAI and update your instance. That's how we keep it safe. So Azure OpenAI is going to be the safest way to do that. Now, what does that mean for us? We have the Power Apps responsive design, and we have a pattern in place on the best way to implement and execute that quickly. We're going to have the Power Automate microservices architecture design. How do we leverage that? And now OpenAI fits into that Power Automate piece, because once you get that microservices and once you go through the pain of setting up Azure OpenAI, understanding how to call the AI endpoint, and you may have 3, 4, 5, 7 different parameters, but 99% of your calls, you're only responsible for 2 parameters. What is the message array looks like, and how many tokens to use in the response. Like those are maybe, and then how, if you want to be creative or scientific, the top P. So those are the 3 that we always want to adjust. And for most of the time, these settings, well, one of the settings always change, but the other 2 are pretty much stagnant. So how do you encapsulate all that heavy lift interacting with the Azure OpenAI and allow your calling flows or your parent flows to take advantage of that with very little friction. That's why the microservices design with Azure Open AI is important. And when we implement that, you will see that. And here's the number one point and reason behind it. This AI space is changing faster than anything I ever seen before. I've already witnessed, and you and I have as well, AI, Azure Open AI or ChatGPT go through so many different iterations of, okay, now we can do this. Now we can do this. We went from GPT 3 to 3.5 to 4 to 4 Omni. Oh, and I can't remember the ones in between, like 3.5 Turbo and da 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 da. So now we're at GPT 4.0 Mini or Micro. Mini, right? Which is supposed to be like as fast. And then you have different use cases of when you use one versus the other, right? So what we need to build, we need to design this in a way. So imagine once you and I get started and you get trained up and you finish this course, you start implementing, and obviously you're not implementing your first application at the end of this course. By the time you finish this course, you probably will have 5 to 6 applications already working and implementing, because the goal is, and if you're like me, and hopefully I'm attracting people like you to me that are like me, that we're iterating nights and weekends. Our learning doesn't stop 9 to 5. We're putting in the extra work because we are the 1% of the 1%, right? We are the top of our class. So we want to know this stuff at a level that no one else is trying to learn it, right? Those are the type of people that I attract. So if you're like me, you're doing what you do to get through the class, but you're immediately applying this stuff to your day-to-day and your 9 to 5. That's how you end up with 4 to 5 applications before you finish the course, right? So we want to build this in a way that if you have all those apps and you do this design pattern right, and now we have a newer version of the OpenAI, we test it out on a couple of our apps, we prove that it's good. We just want to make that change in one spot, and the 20, 30, 50, 100 apps that we have using, our AI apps that we have using this service, are all updated once that we make that one little update. We're not going through, and if we design this in a way to you have to go through each and every app to update the AI, we did something wrong along the way. That's why these architecture design, that's why these microservices design and these repeatable patterns are super duper duper important. Okay, these last two are going to be freebies. They're not directly tied to building AI apps with the Power Platform, but these are common scenarios that you must know in order to pull this off. One are roles and Power Apps. What do I mean by roles and Power Apps? Again, we're taking on the most complex business requirements with this tooling. We're not just going after, oh, let me create a form. Okay, let me grab that form. Let me generate a workflow in Power Automate and send all the email notifications. We're super past that, right? That's level 0.5 stuff. We're dealing with level 3, level 5 applications, right? So we're taking on the most complex requirements. Now, with these business requirements are complex and you're leveraging these tools to pull it off, we're starting to interact with things like, okay, I got a timesheet application. I'm going to use a timesheet application as an example. I have a timesheet application. In my timesheet application, I have 3 roles. I have the submitter, the person who is a team member, right? They just fill out their timesheet and they may be across multiple projects. I have a project manager who oversees multiple teams. This project manager could be managing multiple projects at any given time. So they're managing over teams. And then I have an admin, our program manager, who's actually above all the project managers, right? And within my app, I got certain restrictions. If you're a program manager, you can manage anything. You can create project managers. You can create team members for that project management team. You can create a new team or project. You can designate the number of hours for a project. You can designate the budget for that project. You get to view graphs and all this other stuff to monitor the health of the project and the health of the system overall. That's program manager. And not even talking about IT admin stuff that kind of pull all this stuff together, or developer access that you and I would have because we're creators of this app. So in a project manager, they differ from a program manager because project managers can only manage their team. So there's a restriction. So if I have 35 teams within this app, and then I have Sarah, she's only assigned to 5 projects, Sarah can only manage those 5. And she can't even see the other 25. Or maybe she can't. Like, that's a business requirement. Is it read only, whatever? But more importantly, she can't modify any of the other 25 projects that she's not assigned to. Now, she can add team members. Sarah can add team members to her team. Sarah can manage the hours per project on the team, and so on and so forth. Team members are similar to project managers, but they're restricted to what they can do for the projects that they are assigned to. So for the team that they're on, they can only enter in hours to the projects they're assigned to. They cannot change the hours assigned to a project. They cannot see other teams and So you see how we have these restrictions based on the role. I'm gonna show you a pattern or a framework that I love that seems to work very well and is scalable, it's repeatable, how you can manage roles, those type of roles, the program manager, the project manager, the team member within your app, and I can show you how to do that. All right, lastly, generating the using solutions in the Power Platform. This is probably one of the most underutilized tools within the Power Platform. This goes a long way. When you look, you need to leverage solutions within your Power Platform ecosystem, right? And the main purpose of this is to get your solution from one environment to the other. And secondly, and this is table stakes, this is implied, you should have a multi-environment architecture, something similar to an application lifecycle, to where you're doing development in one environment, and then when it's time for testing, you're pushing that up to another environment, and then once the testing is done, you're pushing that up to a quote-unquote production environment. That's ideal. Now, some organizations may add more layers to that. Some organizations may go very simple. We got the default, and we have prod. Like, that's it. Most organizations, unfortunately, try to do all these activities with one environment and one version of the app. I'm not too concerned about the environments, but I'm more concerned with the versions of the app, right? So this solution is going to allow you to push that up. With these like packaging up a solution and naming it and all this other good stuff, that, like, Microsoft does a lot of the heavy lift for you. It's really a click, export, import, done. Unless you create pipelines, then really it's super simple, because you don't need to export. Is click, publish, done, right? Super simple way to get. But to get this in play, you have to consider certain things, right? And some people who are using solutions are actually not taking full advantage of them, so they get tripped up during the deployment process. They get tripped up changing your connections to say, okay, now instead of using a dev Azure SQL, when I push to this environment, I need to use the production Azure SQL. Changing and managing those connections. Understanding the connection framework. You have a connection reference, and then you have to get that into that environment, right? The other piece you have to consider, global variables or environmental variables. What's the right naming piece of that? How do you leverage environment variables? Because again, environment and variables are for the environment. So if you don't have a structure in place, you can have 20 variables pointing to the same asset because no one's communicating. They're named 20 different ways. And when you look at your environment variables, they are messed because you get all these variables because everyone took their own spin on how to do that. So there are some best practices. There are some frameworks that you got to have in place in order to communicate and collaborate. The other one, here's the most important one. Most of our data sources that we build will actually be SharePoint. So the biggest question is going to be, It's not a connection. SharePoint is not a connection because it's not like a data source, so to speak, even though it is a data source. But for whatever reason, Microsoft treats SharePoint a little bit different than the other data sources. But we love SharePoint. We love using SharePoint lists as our data source. We love using SharePoint libraries as our file data repository. So the biggest question is going to be, what is your pattern? What are some design patterns on how to separate your different SharePoint sites, the one that represent dev for your solution, the one that represents QA or UAT for your solution, and the one that represents production? How do you separate them? Do you separate them, right? And if you do separate them, imagine these are all three different site collections for their respective environments. How do you move this solution from your Power Platform default to your Power Platform UAT to your Power Platform production and have it look at the different site collections per environment? That's why these environment variables for SharePoint connections really come into play. And you got to have a strategy behind it. Again, most of the stuff is click, click, click. But what we're going to do, we're going to establish a strategy. We're going to establish a naming convention. And then that way we can go in with a lot of confidence on how to build this out. With these connections, even with your databases, right? You have to be intentional of not taking the default name and naming these in a meaningful way that are developer friendly. And that way, when you move from environment to environment, it's very clear on what this connection reference is referring to, is connected to. You also have scenarios where you're in dev, right? And sometimes we don't know how our application is going to perform unless it's what I love to call pressure tested. What does pressure testing mean? Pressure test means, let's go back to your timesheet example. Pressure testing a timesheet is when you have more than 5,000 time entries in the SharePoint list that's storing all the time for every team member across all projects. When we designed this initially, everything works perfectly as long as we stay under a certain threshold, as long as we stay under a certain number. I can't tell you the number of applications that start to crumble and fall apart after being used for 3, 6, 12, 18 months because they were never pressure tested. So all that data just starts growing. Then all of a sudden, you can't find anything. The filter's not working. You're getting all kind of errors because you hit that magical 5,000 threshold. That's why some people hate SharePoint. That's a topic for another day. But you and I, we know better. We're not going to redesign our SharePoint list because it hit 5,000 items. We're not going to do that. We're not going to create a backup of a backup of a backup or an archive or any of that silly stuff because we hit 5,000 lists. Read the white paper from Microsoft about SharePoint lists and SharePoint libraries. They're designed to hold more than 5,000 records. They're designed to hold more than 50,000 records. They're designed to hold more than 500,000 records. They're designed to hold more than 5 million records, right? 30 million records is their system limit. Now, if you're not designed to hold more than 5,000, that's because you don't know what you don't know. And we're going to demystify all of it. And that's not even on the list. So you're going to probably have to remind me to make sure that we do a large list implementation to make sure that we put in the things that are needed to optimize that list to take advantage of it and keep it optimal when we're dealing with things way above that. And there may be different strategies too. Like some of your searching, you may have to do something like find this record in a SharePoint list, and the list is 50,000 strong. And your filters and start widths and all the other functions that we use within Power Apps, they're not cutting the line. I'm messing up all my sayings and acronyms today. They're not living up to the mark. They're not cutting it, right? So you may have to do something like in Power Apps, call a Power Automate for your search, right? Which actually executes an HTTP request to SharePoint and then leverage like a SharePoint API or the search API within SharePoint or something a little bit more robust to find what you're looking for and make sure it's performant, meaning that because your user is executing that call and they're going to wait on it, that whole situation has to be optimized. Your Power App, calling the Power Automate, once you're inside of Power Automate, like all of that has to be optimal in order for it to respond within seconds, right? I wish I can get it down to sub-second, but I haven't been able to fine-tune it to that level. But I'm open because I don't know everything. And what I do know, I'm getting from other people within the community. This is why I'm giving back and I'm sharing what I know. Again, we're night and weekend warriors. We're the 1% of the 1%. So what we try to do is do the best that we can, and sometimes we're hard. I'm hard-headed. Sometimes we're hard-headed. Sometimes we won't look for the answer because we don't want someone else's solution, and we want to figure it out on their own because we always think our way is the best way. I mean, that's just a developer in us, right? You wouldn't be a senior developer or lead or team lead or the level that you are if you don't have that type of competitive drive within you, right? Because there is a competitive piece to that. And that comes out when you do code reviews for those of us who are still doing code reviews. Anyway, so these are the 5 that we're looking at. It's going to be a fantastic course. There is a little time pressure on this one. I'm making this video on this Saturday because I'm a weekend warrior. I'm going to use a week to advertise and market this. And again, this is absolutely free, so I'm not marketing it for financial gain. I'm really marketing it because I want a sizable class that makes sense. And I need to get this started ASAP. Like I think I'm looking at the calendar. I think I need to get this started August 9th, the week of August 19th. As a kickoff. Let me look at it, but I need to get this started in August. I don't know if it's the 19th or the 26th. And they're going to be nighttime sessions. So here's the framework. This is what I'm thinking. This may change, but this is what I'm thinking initially. I'm going to use Thinkific or Thinkific, whatever it's called. So I'm already set up there. So there's going to be a course. Somewhere on this description, you're going to see a line to where you can sign up. I'm going to load everything into that now. So you're going to get to sign up, and I think we're going to execute in this order. It may change a little bit, but I think we're going to execute in this order. But you're going to be able to get started with the first video. A lot of this is going to be on your time. But there's a pace that I'm going to set because I'm going to meet with you live weekly or maybe every other week. I have to figure this out. But I'm going to meet with you live, and the expectation is that you're going to be at a certain level within the course. That's the only way those questions, the Q&A, the demo is going to be relevant. If you're on module 1 and we're in week 4 and my pace is I'm at module 5, it's that office hour meeting is not going to make sense to you. So that's going to be the pace. I got to get this done because I'm going on a cruise, real estate cruise, the 3rd week in September, and I need to have this done before I set sail on that cruise. That's the time pressure. So I have a deadline of when I need to get this done. And I'm going to rush this and actually have our weekly meetings. And it's going to take a little bit out of you, but it's going to be well worth it. And if I get this done by the cruise, by the time I get done with the cruise, I may try to do another session by the end of 2024 because I really want to squeeze in 2. I think it's going to be the same stuff, depending on the feedback. But you want to be part of the first wave. At the end of the day, you got to be building these AI solutions, comfortable with these AI solutions before those budgets start to drop in 2025 and your organization starts to execute on AI in a meaningful way. That's the goal of this course. These are the 5 milestones that we want to cover, and we're going to execute, and we need to get started right away. Because of that, I have no idea why you're still sitting here listening to me. It's time to get to work. See you on the other side.